Hi.
Hello everyone, my name is Flipper's Paragraph and welcome back to a new review. Today we're reviewing the 1989 Rob Reiner film written by Nora Ephron, When Harry Met Sally. I think it's fair to say that everyone has seen this movie at least one point in their life. It's just one of those movies that everybody ends up watching at some point or another. In case you haven't seen it, it's basically about this couple, or this not couple, Harry and Sally, and the movie follows them as they go from being not friends to, in the end, lovers. That's pretty much it. And it is a romantic comedy from the 80s, so it's going to have the same pitfalls of a romantic comedy from the 80s, but what separates When Harry Met Sally from other romantic comedies of the 80s is just that the writing is so good. It really is that. I mean, on this channel for the past 4 or 5 reviews, I've always bitched about the script isn't great, the script needs work, the script needs this, the script needed that. And I have notes now. I have notes. And, I mean, you guys tell me if I'm going to cover up the percentage that I gave it. But you guys tell me if this is enough notes, or for my next review, give you a little sneak peek, if this is enough notes. You guys tell me if I need a bigger piece of paper or not. So, When Harry Met Sally starts with Harry and Sally driving to New York together. And in this drive, Harry tells them that women and men cannot truly be friends. And then they don't see each other for 5 years. And then they re-meet at the airport, and they are not friends, but they talk, and some shit happens. And then, finally, 5 years after that, they meet again, and then they do become friends. And then it's just their lives together until at one point they have sex with each other, and that kind of ruins their relationship. And then Harry admits to Sally that he loves her, and then they get married, and they live happily ever after. That's the story. Now, I'll say right off the bat that they have sex and then their relationship gets ruined part is the weakest part of the movie for me, and I'll get into why pretty soon. But let me start off with some great points. Not that the points themselves are great, but that these are great aspects of the film. 1. The character establishment for everyone in the film is really, really good. They start with Harry making out. They start with Sally just in her car, honking and stuff. And I think it says a lot about the characters in no words or in very few words. And it's just an extraordinary bit of writing, in my opinion. And what's also interesting is that with these encounters that they have, any one of these encounters could have been a full movie on their own. Like their drive from Chicago to New York could have been the whole movie. But instead it's just a little snippet. It's like in There Will Be Blood, which I'll put the poster right here. In There Will Be Blood, at the beginning, you see Daniel Plainview, dragging his leg across the desert and getting into town. And that's done in, 3 shots, but realistically, that could have been the whole movie. It's the same thing. That could have been the whole movie, but that was just one scene. And I think that's interesting because it feels like, it makes it feel like there's a lot more to the story, It makes it feel like the story's a lot denser and a lot thicker than it really is. Not to say that the story is loose, for real, but it makes the story denser and it makes the story more lived in, if that makes sense. Because in real life, I guess not in real life, but in movie logic, you could start the movie at any point in the story. Like Jurassic Park could have started when the park closed. Right? The movie could have been about the aftermath. It just makes it feel like there's a whole life going on there. And I think that was a wonderful bit of filmmaking in that part. And the acting. The three actors that I remember from this movie are Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan, and Carrie Fisher. And they all do really, really good work. As comedic performers, as actors in general, I think they do really, really well. Especially Billy Crystal, who is a phenomenal comedic performer. His timing is impeccable. His flow is amazing. He's so natural, and it feels like he's riffing, but I know it's scripted, and it just comes out so naturally out of him. He was born to be a comedic actor. He really was. One thing that did bother me about the movie, though, is the dialogue. Now, the dialogue has two sides to it. One, they're always talking about sex. Or B, they're always talking about marriage. They're always talking about relationships in a Nora Ephron movie, but especially in this one, they won't stop talking about sex. And I'm not like a purist or anything. I don't really give a shit if they're going to talk about sex the whole time. And it's mostly interesting, but when you hear somebody talk about the same thing over and over and over again, at some point you're like, get on with it. It'd be the same thing if they were talking about cars, if they were talking about anything. Like, I don't care that it's specifically sex, but just the fact that they don't stop talking about it just annoys the shit out of me. And the other side of it, the good side, is that they're talking about sex the whole time, but it never feels exploitative. It never feels exploitative. There's women talking about sex, there's men talking about sex. The men never feel like perverts, the women never feel like sluts. It's just, everyone is just talking about their lives. And one big aspect of their lives is sex, which is a part of human life in general. So it makes sense that they would talk about it like so openly. And I like that they talk about it so openly. But I just wish they talked about it less. I like the way that they talk about it. I like how openly they talk about it. I like how respectfully and how cleverly they talk about it. I just wish they talked about it a little less. Just a little bit less. Is it too much to ask? Am I being unreasonable? Am I the problem? I don't know. The other thing is Ephron does this thing where in every scene she has a gimmick. I don't know if calling it a gimmick is the right word, but it's the word that I'm going to use. She has a thing going on behind the conversation that makes it either funny or more engaging or more interesting or just a more romantic or more clever scene. It reminds me of the Naked Gun movies. Whenever they were having a serious conversation and there's a joke going on in the background, it kind of feels like that. Where, like, a good example is the football scene where Billy Crystal and his friend Jess are at the football game. And at this football game, they're talking about how Billy Crystal is getting a divorce. Not Billy Crystal the man, Billy Crystal's character, Harry. So they're talking about how Harry is getting a divorce. And every now and then they stand up and they cheer. They go like, whoa, for the game. And it's just an interesting contrast between what he's saying and what he's doing. And it's that type of gimmick that happens in every single scene that keeps it interesting. Like, there's obviously the I'll have what she's having scene, which is famous. There's the them watching Casablanca scene, where there's like a split screen that keeps it interesting. And the split screen brings me to another point, which is that Rob Reiner, the director, he did a pretty good job on this one. It was creative direction. It was practical direction over anything else. He wasn't being too fancy, not too experimental, nothing like that. It was very practical. It was very traditional, but it was still creative. And it was still good direction. He knew how to bring the best comedy out of these people. It was good that he was working with good comedic actors. I think Meg Ryan is pretty funny. I think Billy Crystal is pretty funny. So it's good that they're both bringing out the best in each other. And it's something that I forgot to mention in my Rabbi's Cat review, but good direction is almost invisible. So when you can tell that there's good direction, either it's obnoxious direction or it's legitimately good direction and you're just like good at observing it. So I hope I'm good at observing it. I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty good at observing good direction, but it's a thing where you can tell that a lot of love and care went into the film. And I feel like a lot of tender love and care went into this film. A lot of people were really, really, really passionate about this and were really trying to make it the best that they possibly could. A lot of people believed in this project, which is good, and especially the director, and especially the writer, and especially the actors, which is what needs to be. Who are the people who need to believe in it most, in my opinion. Another big thing is the music. This film has a lot of music, and most of it, I'll say most, fits pretty well. The one piece of music that annoys me is the opening credits song, which is this beep boop beep boop beep 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 boop beep boop piano shit that is so goddamn bad that the first time I was watching Harry and Sally, I fucking just skipped through it, and I still skip through it to this day. But it's so fucking bad. It's atrocious, honestly. It's the worst fucking piano song I've ever heard. It's the worst opening to a movie I've ever heard. And it's gross. And then there's like Louis Armstrong music, and there's this sweet jazz, and this nice like blues music throughout the rest of the movie. And it's like, where did that one terrible piano music come from? I get that it's improv jazz, but it's bad improv. But who am I to judge music in that way? The movie's cinematography and the technical aspects are not great. I mean, they're not... It's the same thing with a movie like What Happened Was, where it's functional, it's practical, it does what it needs to, and that's about it. It's nothing to write home about, it's nothing to brag about. It's functional. I can pinpoint maybe 10 or 12 really impressive shots in When Harry Met Sally, but that's about it. And by really impressive, I mean I went like, oh, that's a cute shot. Not like blow me away like Blade Runner or anything like that. But overall, it had the same pitfalls of every romantic comedy, which is that at the end, they have sex, and then it ruins their relationship, and then they fall in love, which is the part where the movie dwells, and it fucking dwells a lot. It fucking slows to a crawl at this point, and it is excruciating to watch. It's just... I despise this part of the movie, and it's hard to sit through, especially because the first, 80% of the movie is really, really good. And then the last 20%, it just turns into every other romantic comedy where they have sex, it ruins their relationship, which, by the way, is the most forced conflict I've ever seen in a film. One of the most forced conflicts I've ever seen. I won't say the most, but it's definitely up there. It's so forced and it feels so inorganic that it's just difficult to sit there and believe that you're watching this. And above all else, the ending itself is fine. The movie has this format where they're interviewing married couples, and they're like, I've been married for 55 years. And she's like, yeah, you've been married 55 years. Or whatever. And they're just talking about their marriage. And then at the end, it cuts to Harry and Sally, and they're like, yeah, we've been married 2 months now. And it's cute. It's really cute. Honestly, it's a super cute movie. If you like cute movies, watch this one. You'll love it. But the ending is just every other romantic comedy, and it just... I would be bitching about this if it were a romantic comedy, if it were a horror, if it were a drama. If it falls into the same exact line that every other one of these movies falls into, I'm going to mention it because it's just almost inexcusable at this point. Like, Nora Ephron is a talented writer. There's no doubt about it. But there's a reason she writes romantic comedies. It's because it's what she's good at. And she's good at writing romantic comedy. She wrote a really good romantic comedy. But it's still a romantic comedy, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are my thoughts on When Harry Met Sally. I feel that the notes were a huge improvement. I feel really good about it. I'm going to give this movie a 67%. So that puts it the lowest thing I've ever reviewed as of yet, I believe. I would recommend this movie to people who like romantic comedies. I would recommend this to families. I would recommend this to people like my sister, who is just a sucker for romantic comedies. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, tell me what you guys thought of this review. I personally really enjoyed making it, and subscribe, like, comment, share, whatever. Subscribe to the Patreon. Subscribe to the Twitch page. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review, and look out for the next one next week. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.